Kellyanne, can you offer clarity on this phone call President-elect Trump apparently had with the president of Taiwan? Do you know what was discussed?
So publicly, I would just like to say whatever is in the readout and what's been publicly disclosed is really the only thing I'll have to say on the matter, Anderson.
I mean, asking, as you well know, is the U.S. doesn't recognize Taiwan as its own nation. There's obviously a strong unofficial relationship. The U.S. views Taiwan as part of China, doesn't support Taiwan independence. U.S. president hasn't apparently spoken to a leader of Taiwan since 1979. I think there's a tweet now from the Democratic Senator Chris Murphy who said these are major pivots in foreign policy without any plan. That's how wars start. Can you say if this does signal some sort of a shift in the president-elect's strategy vis-a-vis China or Taiwan?
Well, it sounds like Senator Murphy's tweet is pretty incendiary and does not signal much of a shift from what seems to be the doctrinaire Democratic response to the election results. I mean, this is how wars are starting, and it's a major policy shift because he had a phone call. That's pretty negative and pretty presumptuous.
But there is a widespread belief that this is something which China takes very seriously, and this has been longstanding U.S. policy toward China not to recognize Taiwan.
Right? But again, I can't discuss anything beyond what's been publicly said, and I won't do that. And this is the president-elect. This will be his administration. He'll be commander-in-chief, and he'll be president of the United States imminently now. And he either will disclose or not disclose the full contents of that conversation, but he's well aware of what U.S. policy has been.
There have been questions raised about the briefing materials that President-elect Trump has used in phone calls with world leaders, whether or not he's used State Department briefing booklets and information there, and the expertise of people in the State Department that's been available to him. Can you confirm if he did consult that before this phone call?
I can confirm that he has access to those materials, and he has access to daily briefings. He has access to other information that comes to him from official government agencies and
Does he use it, though?
Of course he uses it. He reads everything. I mean, the guy, he's the busiest guy on the planet, pretty much has been for a while now. But as president-elect is fully engaged, works, just pours the time in, has talked to, he and Vice President-elect Pence have talked to probably about 45 or 50 leaders now, or met them. He's talked to probably 80 people or so as advisors, folks who are offering their counsel, their experiences, their vision. He takes information that is given to him and provided to him. He avails himself of any number of different information sources, including those that come from the State Department, including those that come from intelligence briefings.
So is there, just in terms of how it works, is there a policy before talking to a world leader or the president of Taiwan that he would be briefed by the State Department, or that he would make sure to be fully up on Taiwan's unofficial relations?
Well, you're presuming that he's not, and I don't remember any of these questions ever being asked about President Obama or President-elect Obama. I think 8 years ago at this time.
Well, he's never spoken to the president of Taiwan, so this is the first time, so it is new, so that's why I'm asking.
Sure, but as president-elect, I'm pretty certain that President-elect Obama spoke to world leaders in preparation for taking over as President of the United States and Commander-in-Chief, and I can't imagine that he was asked here or elsewhere if he had been properly and fully briefed, considering that he had very, very little experience himself.
But this is a break with U.S. policy.
I mean,
this is uncharted waters, not since, for decades.
Anderson, President-elect Trump is fully briefed and fully knowledgeable about these issues on an ongoing basis, regardless of who's on the other end of the phone.
How is the structure right now in the transition? Where would where's the discussion coming from of whom he should be having phone calls with? How does that actually work?
Well, it works in a very orderly fashion. It's a matter of the executive committee. It's a matter of the president-elect, the vice president-elect, other advisors to the making suggestions, and we're happy to schedule the calls. There's a very orderly process. We make sure that there is plenty of time for those phone calls, that there's proper briefing, and so far they've just gone really well in terms of dozens and dozens of phone calls and a few meetings with world leaders by Vice President-elect Pence and President-elect Trump, all the while being very sensitive to the fact that we have a current president, current vice president still in office. He at least is having these private conversations, giving a readout here and there about them, but not trying to make policy and not trying to make waves until he's actually the president in 6.5 weeks.
I mean, I guess that's the question, whether a phone call with the president of Taiwan, which is a major shift in U.S. policy, or, you know, just having that direct contact, is in fact making waves. There's another piece of CNN reporting. A different administration official says there was no contact with either the White House or the State Department about the call beforehand. Can you confirm that?
I can't confirm that, but I can tell you yesterday there was a major shift in policy in that Donald Trump and Mike Pence went to Indianapolis and helped Carrier broker a deal that kept 1,100 employees here. Why is that relevant? Because that's a major shift in policy. The current president could have done that. The current vice president could have done that. They just did not do that. And this is, you see these major shifts in policy. Taiwan is different than that, certainly. But I can't confirm particular intimate details of phone calls that are being had between the president-elect and world leaders. I just won't do it.
And obviously we did a lot of reporting on that yesterday, particularly as well as both President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect Pence, their thank you to the beginning of their self-described thank you tour. Just finally, can you, the Pakistan government released what they said was a readout of the phone call between President-elect Trump and Pakistan's Prime Minister. It was a one-sided readout. It was only allegedly what Donald Trump had said, not what the Pakistan Prime Minister had said. Was that accurate? And does it? I mean, it was very unconventional for Pakistan to do that. It was a break of protocol. Was that something which was concerning to the president-elect?
Well, we would prefer that any time something like that is done, that you get the full benefit of the entire conversation, to the extent that both sides had agreed to a readout. But again, he's having these phone calls, he's having these meetings. He will do that again as president with world leaders, certainly, as will Vice President Pence. But in the meantime, I mean, you know, beyond what is publicly disclosed, I just cannot disclose anything further than that. It would be highly inappropriate for any of us to do that. So I'm going to have to stick with that. I can talk about a lot of aspects of the transition, can talk about many aspects of the